Regina King, let's go straight to how you got involved with 7 Seconds. I know we talked about it last time, but now that you've done it, tell us how you got involved in the project.
Actually, Venus sued, and Gavin O'Connor reached out to me with interest for me to play the role of Latrice. And I read the script, and it was amazing, like I told you before. And did I tell you before that I originally was interested in the role of KJ?
No.
Yeah, that's the role that I wanted to play. And it kind of took after I played Latrice to discover why I really wanted to play KJ. Initially, I felt like it was just, I'd played mothers several times before. And so I just felt like, this would be a different role, playing someone that's kind of doesn't have her stuff together and not the originally, doesn't initially come as the most likable person. So I thought that that would be a challenge. And she just felt in her heart that I was Latrice, and she had always seen me in that role. So I ended up playing it. And by the time I got to 6 months later after playing Latrice, I realized that I didn't want to play Latrice because I kind of had an idea of the emotional journey it was going to take me on. And I think I guess I was scared of going on a journey like that.
Yeah, I can see why. And like, it's going to be hard for us to discuss what happens throughout the series. So we'll try to keep it super general so that people can discover it themselves, obviously. But when we last talked, we talked about how, in the past, season 2 of American Crime, you played a really strong mama bear. And then season 3, you played a woman who couldn't have kids and wanted them desperately. And now you're back in a role where, like, you're dealing with something that is so unimaginable, the loss of a child. And I'm trying to understand, like, why, when you took on the role, you didn't want to play it originally. When you took it on, what scared you the most?
I guess, having a son and having moments, um, just myself of when, if Ian may have been just even a little late for curfew, and just that nervous feeling I would get. And, one time Ian kind of he was being a good friend and taking one of his friend's girlfriends home, and he was pulled over by the police and, made to like ask questions like, what are you doing? What are you doing with her? And made to get out of the car and had to sit on the curb. And when he came home, he was just so upset and so frustrated because although we had had so many conversations about the police and how he should handle himself if he's ever pulled over in a situation when confronted by the police, he had never had that experience. Something that was a conversation. Something that was only a conversation and a discussion about what potentially could happen became a reality for him. So experiencing that through your child and feeling them being upset, and there's nothing that you can do about it. As parents, we want to be able to fix everything. We want to be able to put our children in positions where they feel empowered all the time. And, the reality is you can't. So I guess having that, knowing that from an experiential place, and then talking to a mother who actually had a son that was murdered, just made something that has always been like I've never had that experience, and I wish that no one would ever have that experience. First of all, just to lose a child is unimaginable, but then to lose a child at the hands of someone else is even more devastating. And again, it's something that I can only imagine and I can only know from the conversations that I've had with other parents. And I gotta tell you, it was just kind of bone chilling, kind of to talk to Marion, is the mother, the woman that I talked to about her son. And what was so interesting about talking to her is that somehow she has been able to find little bits of joy, even throughout her sadness. And it's been years since her son was killed, but that sadness, that pain is still there. But she still has finally found a way to smile again, and she has other children. And I guess I felt like, oh, well, thank God she did have other children. But she was telling me that there was a time that, she was totally checked out, even though she had other children to take care of. Just that hole that was left inside her was something that was indescribable. So I really tried to tap into that, even though that's just a scary thought. But I knew that if I'm gonna say yes, that it is so important to honor, I guess, the pain that parents feel when they go through this. And because it is something that's just so much of a reality right now in American culture, that I kind of felt like I had to take the role, even though that's not the one I originally wanted. Just talking to her and talking to Vina kind of felt like, okay, well, the universe is putting this in my lap. I'm gonna accept it and just hope that it makes some people who wouldn't ever consider another person's story consider it.
Yeah.
That it's not a story, it's a reality for a lot of people.
Yeah. And you're talking about it, is you can see it on your face and mine that it is a very uncomfortable place to be in. And you knew going into this, working with Vina Sud, that you'll be working on something that would be dark. That's really her repertoire. And this is a very dark Jersey, New York, tri-state area. It's a very dark, unforgiving and cold place on purpose, right? And so all of that is playing on your mind when you take on the role and you're starting. But then I was thinking about the scene in the first episode, trying not to spoil too much. But when you walk into the room and you realise, that's your kid and he's there. How do you mentally prepare yourself for that? Are you thinking about your personal life to bring out that emotion?
Oh man, it's interesting because you go through a myriad of emotions, because I have a son, like I said. So a part of me would really work hard to try not to think of my son, because it would make me so emotional that it would take me out of what I need to do to execute the performance. So it just took a lot of, I mean, I know this just sounds so simple, but it's not when you're in it. Just a different level of focus, a focus that I don't think I ever really had to wrangle that level of focus before. Because again, to separate it from being a mom of an only child, an only son, and not just internalize that was tough. And in all honesty, probably I sometimes I didn't do a good job of not internalizing it, because my son said sometimes I would call him every day or every other day with just random things, like asking him put the towels in the dryer, just like odd things. So just I guess there was something inside that was just yearning to still be connected to him because I'm playing this role of a woman that lost all physical connection with her son.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. But
Yeah.
there's a lot more to it. When we talked last year, I think you were vacationing in Mexico, and
Yeah.
you were talking about how this show actually has a lot of other themes. Obviously, when you see it, what do you think it says about race and socioeconomic class and law enforcement and all of these things that are so relevant to today?
Well, I mean, it's just so many different things. It's I heard and I can't remember the woman's name that said it, but it just throughout that whole experience just kept bringing me back to when privilege is your norm, equality can feel like oppression. So you watch this story and you see people who have a life of privilege, and not just a privilege because of the color of their skin, but because of they abuse the badge that they wear.
Yeah.
And how so many people get a label put on them because of other bad behavior. And I guess in a lot of ways, it's kind of, and I think when we talked before about American crime, I think this is in the same regard, that it's kind of almost like an anthropology lesson. It's a study on behavior and how I think so many, just like you can pass down DNA. It can be from, you have same eyes as a family member, or all of these physical attributes, that I think things like pain and guilt and those things can be passed down as well. And it just when you come from a line, a lineage that has a lot of oppressing people, that plays itself out a certain way. And when you have a lineage that comes from people that have been oppressed, that plays out a certain way. And when you have a lineage of people who have been oppressed but have overcome, that translates in a certain way. And I think here we are, all of those three things. You have all of us ancestors of all of that living together, but not talking about it. And it just makes for a real interesting mix or lack thereof.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so fascinating. You see it in your kids; they do things, and then you think, "Man, that's exactly what I was like," and I
Yeah.
didn't teach that. It's just there, and so that's what you're saying. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's get a little bit lighter now, because just so we can lighten the mood slightly.
Right.
I always talk about this with you because it's so fascinating that for many years there was always talk for people like me who do this for a job, that why isn't Regina King winning any awards? It's so frustrating. And then all of a sudden you became like the Emmys, like you were there all the time. You were nominated like 3 times in a row. You won twice. It was just like, man, she's just getting nominated for everything. So I'm wondering what it feels like these days to be known as, a 2-time winner and, a force at the Emmys, and you could be there again.
Well, it's, I guess it's kind of cool when, and it says 2-time Emmy winner Regina King, so now I have an introduction to my name, which is, I don't mind that introduction.
Mhm.
I think that goes right up there with some of the best introductions, out there, and so that feels good. Then a lot of ways I feel like, I'm just Regina, and then I hear that, and it's a nice reminder of all the work that I've been doing all my life. I think that a lot of times well, I'm not gonna say you plural, I'll say me. I think I'm guilty of not owning having a really great career and it's still going on, and I get caught in this place of not trying to sound like I'm braggadocious instead of just walking in my truth and recognizing that it is something special and it is okay to say it.
Yeah.
So I think when with conversations like this, and when you say that, it's just it reminds me that, you know, there's something to smile about. It's something that you should be proud of, and it's nothing wrong with saying, yeah, I'm a two-time Emmy winner. It's nothing wrong. It's saying that out loud doesn't make me a person not that doesn't have humility. I'm still Regina, but
Still humble little Regina.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, it's a fact, first of all. But secondly, any of us that get a pat on the back from peers or from colleagues or the industry that we work in, man, there's not much better than recognition when you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the reviews for 7 Seconds, I think you've been one of the people that most of the critics have said, you know, yet again, here's Regina King and she's killing it in a role that would have been extremely challenging. So, I mean, the point is, two-time Emmy winner, but it must feel rewarding after years and years and years. I mean, you should have won for Southland and God knows what else to actually finally say, you know what, people are recognizing that I'm doing good work and I appreciate that.
It does feel good. I do appreciate that. But also, you know, I got to tell you that it's kind of, I think, put me in this place where it lines me up to be considered to continue to be considered for groundbreaking material. And so if two-time Emmy winner is going to help continue that, I will take it, because I can't help but to think that if American Crime wasn't what it was, would I have been on Avina Sood's radar? You know, would I have been on a Damon Lindelof's radar? You know, maybe not. So
Yes.
I'll take it.
Take it. You got to take it. Regina, thanks so much for your time. 7 Seconds, it's heavy, but it's relevant, and you were incredible, and good luck for award season. You never know what could happen.
Thank you. And all those Gold Derby people out there, please check out 7 Seconds. It's like, and you remember when I talked to you when I was on vacation, it was so heavy to me that I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about this one.
You were like, I don't even know if I can talk about this. It's so heavy. And you were right.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's and I still haven't watched it. I don't think that I can, but I read all the scripts. I was there, and I think it's something worth taking the time to check out.
Absolutely. All right, we are